Anticipation drill is my all-time favorite drill for a quarterback. Also really good for receivers. The quarterback will take a drop while a receiver is running a shallow cross or a crossing route in pattern. He'll lose the vision. The receiver will lose vision on the quarterback as he goes behind the mat, which often occurs when defensive linemen and linebackers are in the way. The thing it's creating for the quarterback is anticipation. Try to get the ball to the receiver as soon as he crosses that bag or as close to the open window as possible. Very difficult to teach quarterbacks how to anticipate a throw. Everybody can see a throwing lane or see someone open and then throw the football, but can they anticipate a receiver coming in to a throwing lane? Not many drills to do to try to train them to anticipate, and this is one that we found. This comes from the great Lindy Infante. Both the benefit will go both to the receivers and the quarterback, as it is a good catching drill for receivers and a good anticipation drill for the quarterbacks. A mat or screen can be used to create the obstacle, the loss of vision for the quarterback and the receiver. It can be done with a tarp hanging over a goalpost. You can be creative to get the distance of the screen, but where you're essentially trying to simulate can be worked from straight on or to the side.
Almost there.
Throwing from left to right now.
Yeah. Shout out to Jim Harbaugh giving us a little drill there about quarterback anticipation. I didn't realize going into this year that we were going to be showing so much Michigan tape or just Michigan coaching. You would think so, considering that our head coach learned so much from Michigan. But we're going to talk a little bit about quarterback anticipation today. Receiver anticipation. We're going to talk about routes and coverage and how safeties can dictate to a quarterback where to throw the ball. So that is going to be fun. To preface, I am not trying to change anyone's mind today. If you don't like Geno Smith, I'm not going to change your mind. If you don't like DK Metcalf, I'm not going to change your mind. If you don't like Ryan Grubb, I'm not going to change your mind. But this should be fun, possibly educational. I might learn something. You might learn something. Welcome to First Kick Seahawks, the show where we prepare you for the first kick of every play by game day. If you would like to support the show, you can like the video, you can subscribe, you can buy me a coffee. We have links to all the stuff we're going to be discussing today in the video below. So, when I evaluate a play, I start with two things. One, where are the safeties? This is what a quarterback does. When they get up to the line, the first thing they look at is where the safeties are. It tells them where the coverage is. Specifically, as they're going through their footwork, they want to see, where are the safeties rolling? Do I have cover 2? Do I have cover 4? Is a safety rolling over? I thought it was cover 6. Now we have cover 7. It is going to tell them where to look during their foot process. 2, I then look to see where they are stepping. Are they getting their eyes on the right spot on step 3, on step 5, and on step 7? Where are they looking? Then in the third part of that process, I look at the offensive line. Are they creating gaps? On step 3, if the quarterback is looking here, is the offensive line creating a throwing lane for the quarterback? Doesn't matter if you're Johnny Unitas, the tallest quarterback, right? You need a throwing lane because otherwise a 6'5" defensive lineman is going to get his mitt up and possibly bap that down. On step 5, when you then progress to the next lane, is there going to be a passing lane? On step 7, same thing. I think that those 3 pieces caused this play to fail more so than Geno Smith throwing the ball poorly or DK Metcalf running a route poorly. Which both of those might be true, they might not be true. We're going to look at that. Courtesy of Joel Moran on Twitter, or X, if that's something that you're into. First of all, this is step 7. As we always talk about, each kick of the play, on the 3rd kick, that's when you're supposed to fire the ball for the 3rd step of the route, on the 5th kick, on the 7th kick. This is the 7th kick. I want you to notice a couple things. We talk about triangles. Here's DK Metcalf. He is running a post, right? If he was running a dig, he would be driving in this way. On this route, the anticipation of the route, if the ball was thrown on a dig route, first of all, Fred Warner is right there. Second of all, this outside linebacker or nickel is right there. So on the 7th step, it is covered. But most importantly, you have this triangle here. And so when you are running a post route, it is the responsibility on the 9th step of the play, after the play is broken, for the post route runner to get to the hash mark and run up the field. This does a couple things. A, it gives a nice lane for the quarterback to just heave the ball, but also it pulls the safeties out of position. And that's going to get important as we break down this play. So here we go. At the start of the play, let's first identify the safeties. We got them right here. Free safety is playing a little bit underneath. Strong safety is playing above. So it makes sense, considering that we have the Y here, that it is the free safety's responsibility to help cover the Y. I believe that's JSN, Tyler Lockett over here. It's not good film for me. These two don't matter in this play so much. They're just receivers that we're going to cover. Other thing, you have this corner out here who's playing outside containment. He wants to force DK Metcalf inside. He does not want DK Metcalf to run outside. If he did, he would have been lined up directly over him. DK Metcalf is also not lined up all the way on the X. He is a little bit inside, dictating, of course, that he wants to split these two guys apart. He wants to create pressure on the safeties. One of the big thing about playing just a big speedy guy is to take a safety out of the game. Take one of these big corners who are playing deep. You got about 10 yards of depth here out of the play. Meanwhile, you have this corner down here at the bottom. He's got about 5 yards of coverage, right? He's going to play a little bit closer. He's going to try to jam. He's going to try to cover any in-breaking routes. The reason for this being, quarterbacks, their routes tend to be, they look from the right side of the field to the left, the visible side of the field to the left. Another thing to point out is look at where the hash mark is and where we're starting. There's a lot more space to work with on this side of the field than there is on this side of the field. Therefore, it is a lot easier to play underneath coverage on anything these receivers are trying to do. If you try to break underneath, there is going to be a linebacker or a nickel underneath because they don't have to cover as much of the field. So it makes sense that you're going to have a receiver trying to run a post to try to stretch this out and make room. So let's take a look at what these safeties do before we look at the routes. We're going to just go to step 1 of the quarterback. See, you can see it there. They're in a backpedaling position, including the corners. So we're in cover 4. Right? Everyone's pedaling back. Everyone's trying to cover the deep coverage. That makes sense because we're on 1st and 18. All right? Step 2 is right there. And then step 3. He's planted his foot. He is starting to break inside. And then you can see that this safety has planted himself. Okay, he is still remaining over the top of this Y. You have a linebacker staying over the top of this Y, or Z, whatever you want to call it. And then you have Fred Warner splitting the middle. This safety is splitting the middle of these two guys. He is going to take this third of the field. All right, he's not rolling over the top. This is important because this dictates what this safety is going to be doing as we approach step 5. Geno Smith, you'll notice he does not continue to backtrack. Part of that is because Stone Forsythe has been getting beat constantly on the outside, and so he probably has subconsciously decided to not continue his steps backward. Step 5 should be about here. Step 7 should be back here. Instead, what you'll notice if we just, do the play is he bounces. Right? So, right about here, he bounces. And you can see the safety is following this Y and coming inside. And this triangle is beginning to form a little bit more clearly. Look at the hips of the safety. He is selling really hard that he is covering this side of the field. Because look at this receiver. His hips are trailing this way. Linebacker's hips are trailing this way. You have this corner, it's hard to tell. His hips are facing the inside. Another triangle right here. Any plays that are going on this way, there's going to be a player that can see it, and they are going to tackle that player. They're going to sell that on step 5, if you were throwing the ball here, we are going to tackle Fred Warner is picking this up. Look at the eyes of the quarterback on step 5. He is looking right there, and Fred Warner is staring him down. What Geno probably should have done is thrown the ball right there and just picked up a couple of yards, because look at where the triangles are. We got one here. We got one here covering up this guy. And we got one here covering up DK Metcalf. We got one right here covering up him. And we got just the one guy on the outside, but a safety's covering over the top to help clean that up. Let's start from the beginning again. 1, 2, 3. Look at his eye contact here. He is looking to see on both of these spots where the safety is. The safety has rolled over. If he was to hit this guy, there's a linebacker right there to make a play. The receiver does not have his body turned. He could try to throw the ball on this outside shoulder, but the timing is probably just off. Also, the passing lane, as I said earlier, is not open. This guard needs to have moved the player over, and there is space for him to have moved him over. In order for this to work, Geno needs to slide and then attempt this throw. There is no room. He could try to bend his arm, but it's just not going to happen. He's probably trying to play for more yardage on a 1st and 18 play. It's a try-hard play. 1 bounce. 2 bounce. His eyes are now shifted. Probably should have thrown right there. DK Metcalf, he's at the point of his break. He's making contact with Geno Smith. There is a player right in his lap. But this is where the anticipation is. Like Jim Harbaugh said, if you had a big tar map right here, you need to anticipate that DK is going to break here, trying to get to this hash mark by step 7 so he can start to run his post route. The problem is, look at this line of sight. You have the tackle and the guard all up in here. You have this receiver in the way. You have this corner in the way. And you still have Fred Warner right there. You could try to float it up and over. It is likely that this corner is going to backpedal and pick it off. You have this corner right there over the top. But to be fair, the safety is rolling outside and under. Sorry, inside and under. So ideally, you would put the ball right there, but it's probably going to have this corner making a play on it. Not a best placement as far as getting a ball to DK. I would have thrown it right down here. Let's take a look at step 7. He then does a bounce. You can see his foot goes to the outside. You want to keep your feet square. He does not. Part of that is you can see a defender making a play on the outside. He's probably more wary about getting sacked than anything. Makes a bounce, steps inside for step 7, and then 9. He starts to throw. DK is rolling up this hill. So in this situation, you have these split corners. Well, the safety's right here. Corner is now behind him. Ideally, you want to put the ball right here, or you want to try to float it above because this guy is so far away. He could still try to make a play on the ball, but because this gentleman's hips are turned, and because Fred Warner has collapsed on this play, and because this corner has collapsed on this play, you want to put the ball right here on the hash mark, because that is where the post route is running, up the hill. Where does Geno put this ball? He puts it behind him. It's an anticipation problem. Now, one thing that DK Metcalf could have done is he could have just squatted right there and try to catch it. And that's where the big argument is. Again, I'm not trying to argue one way or the other. But when you're running a post route, at step 9, your job is to run up the hill so that you can clear this guy out and create space for the other receivers to make plays. If you just stand there, then you're going to leave defenders in the way. So let's start at the beginning. And I want you to just watch this triangle. Watch how they backpedal as a unit. Watch how they break in on the routes. And then he just goes right where the play is. What should have happened, because again, like I said before, this safety is all the way on this side of the field, is this ball should have been thrown up and over so that the guy can't make a play underneath. It needs to be on the hash mark above him because the safety has his hips turned and he won't be able to get over and make the play. And if you throw it up and over, the corner is not going to be able to outrush DK Metcalf. Now, on top of it, this is late, midway through the fourth. Hello, Envy Live. How you doing? And Geno was thrown 50 times in the Lions game, 40 times in the last game, and then he was probably at like 45 times in this game. His arm is tired. 3 games in 10 days is absurd. But right here, as far as anticipation, I don't think Geno Smith could see where this corner was. The corner was behind DK Metcalf. Look at this. Look at this straight line right here. I don't think Geno Smith could see this guy and where he was. And I think he could barely see DK Metcalf. So he just threw it there. And so, is it Geno Smith's fault? Kind of. Is it DK Metcalf's fault for not just like stopping there and beating the guy? Kind of. What it really is, it's the fault of the 49ers for having really good coverage on this play. And so what's probably happening is that the 49ers saw that we have been running this same route combination a lot this year. Now, they jumped on a plane, flew over from Santa Clara to Seattle. They didn't get a lot of time to break down tape. But these guys have played a lot of football together, right? They know how to communicate pre-snap. Fred Warner knows how to communicate pre-snap. Hey, this is the type of route. They know how to cover a post route. And so if Fred Warner is just going to shuttle underneath and help cover up this, and it's a long route, then it's just a hell of a play by a 49er. Again, Geno Smith probably should have lobbed it up and over so that only DK Metcalf should have been the one to make this play. Because again, the safety has been cleared out. The free safety is over here. The strong safety is covering this side of the field. If he throws it over here, this corner does not have a chance to make a play on the ball. But I don't think he saw the safety. Because look at this line of sight. Now, Geno has been taught to anticipate it, but there's only so much you can do. Okay, Envy Live has a comment. I think Geno should have thrown it over the shoulder and DK would have taken it to the house. Yeah, I agree. Because this is the reason why you have DK run a post. Because he can do this. People were saying he was running a dig route, which is this 90 degrees. But you don't necessarily have him run a 90 degrees unless you have 2 safeties over the top, which when the safety crashes, you have him dictate to run a post. Specifically because with 1 safety over the top, on literally the other side of the field, you can have him go for a deep pass and house it. And he's done it repeatedly this year. Heck, he did it in this 49ers game if it wasn't for Kenneth Walker doing the electric slide. So, what's the lesson from this? Quarterbacks' arms get tired. Quarterbacks that don't have their footwork in rhythm and don't throw on step 7 are going to have line of sight issues on step 9. There was an opportunity on step 7 for him to get the ball out underneath and check it down. And Geno did not do that. He was waiting for the post route. If he had thrown it over the top, there was a good chance DK could have gotten his hands on it. If he had thrown it underneath, like he did, there's a good chance the corner can break on it because his hips were already facing the direction of the play. If you don't like Geno Smith, I'm not going to convince you that he's a bad player or a good player. If you don't like DK Metcalf, there's nothing I can do about that. I think Ryan Grubb, if you call too many passing plays, you start to telegraph these things and you don't set yourself up for success. Now, granted, we did run the ball about 20 times, but if you run on first down and second down and you're not using pulling guards and the such to set up your running plays, you're setting up your run game for failure as well. And that's a whole nother conversation, not designed for this. What Geno probably should have done is taken the check down, but by the time step 7 had already happened and he was moving on to step 9, Fred Warner was shuttling to his check down, and it was basically game over. The play was dead. The pocket was collapsing on him. So what probably should have happened is Geno should have taken the sack and made it 2nd and 20. A little too late, right? Geno threw the ball, let's round down, 140 times in 10 days. That's too much. That's way too much. So it could also be his arm was too tired to throw the ball over DK Metcalf. That Tyler Lockett interception at the start of the game, his arm was probably a little banged up and a little sore to get it exactly where it needed to be. Geno was off target most of that game. He had a couple good throws, but there were also a lot of throws where you're just like, Geno's normally not like that. And as we saw with that Patriots game against the Jets, like immediately after they played us, coming off of a Sunday game and then playing a Thursday game, sometimes teams just physically aren't ready. And so I think you have a young coaching staff who they play Monday Night Football, then they play Sunday football, then they play Thursday Night Football against an experienced team that's been together for a decade, almost a decade, 2017, right? Yeah, they just got outcoached. Defensively, they just got outplayed. And we still had a chance to win that game if we didn't turn the ball over what should have been 4 times. So that's my thoughts on that play. Don't beat up DK on it. Don't send Geno Smith all these hate tweets or hate mail on whatever social media platform he's on. Let's get ready for this Falcons game. We could turn it around. We got a nice long week to prep for it. Let's just hope Kirk Cousins doesn't throw for 500 yards on us. I think Byron Murphy's also expected to be back for this game, so that's cool. Again, like the video, subscribe to First Kick Seahawks. I will catch you guys all around tomorrow.